He was waiting for a taxi when he saw his ex walking a little boy with his eyes into kindergarten, and in that instant, his perfectly controlled life began to fall apart. The courtyard was quiet in the way mornings often are just after the rush begins to fade. A few cars moved slowly past the gates, someone upstairs closed a window, and the air carried the faint smell of wet concrete and cold metal. Adam Brooks stood near the entrance, his coat buttoned, his phone in hand, refreshing the taxi app with growing irritation. The driver was late, and for once, Adam had nowhere urgent to be. No meetings. No boardroom. No audience. He liked these rare pauses, even if he never admitted it to himself. Moments where he could stand unnoticed, just another man waiting in a courtyard instead of a CEO whose name appeared in headlines and contracts. His brown, slightly wavy hair was tousled by the wind, and his blue eyes looked tired in a way that success had never managed to fix. He checked the screen again and exhaled sharply, slipping the phone into his pocket. That was when movement at the far end of the courtyard caught his attention. A woman was walking toward the gate. At first, Adam registered only something familiar in the way she moved, a rhythm his memory recognized before his mind did. Then she stepped into clearer view, and his chest tightened as if the air had suddenly grown thinner. Lily. She hadn't changed as much as he expected. Her blonde hair was pulled back loosely, a few strands escaping around her face, her blue eyes focused downward as she spoke softly to someone beside her. She looked thinner, more tired, but there was a quiet strength in her posture that hadn't been there before. Adam took a step forward without realizing it. Then he saw the child. A little boy walked at her side, his small hand wrapped securely around hers. He couldn't have been more than 3 years old. His brown hair curled naturally, slightly wild, and his bright blue eyes scanned the world with open curiosity. He stumbled once, caught himself, and Lily immediately slowed, murmuring reassurance as she adjusted his jacket. Adam felt the ground tilt beneath him. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. The same eyes. The same shape of the mouth when the boy concentrated. Even the same way his curls fell forward when he looked down. Adam had seen that reflection every morning of his adult life, never imagining he might see it again in someone so small, so vulnerable, so undeniably real. Lily laughed quietly at something the boy said, and the sound hit Adam harder than he was prepared for. It pulled memories from places he had sealed shut years ago, memories of promises he hadn't kept and conversations he had ended too quickly because they interfered with ambition. She looked up then. Their eyes met across the courtyard, and the world seemed to pause between one breath and the next. Lily froze, her smile disappearing instantly, shock flashing across her face before she masked it with practiced control. Adam watched the change with painful clarity, understanding immediately that this was not a coincidence she could ignore. The boy noticed Adam staring and turned fully toward him, studying him with open interest. "Mom," he asked, his voice clear and curious, "who's that man?" Adam's heart slammed violently against his ribs. He couldn't speak. He couldn't move. He simply stood there, staring at a child who felt like a living question he had never known he would be asked. Lily tightened her grip on the boy's hand. "That's someone I used to know," she said, her voice steady but strained. Adam swallowed hard. He had come downstairs expecting a taxi and a quiet morning. Instead, he was standing face to face with a past that had grown into a child, and with it, a truth that was already tearing his carefully constructed life apart. The moment stretched far longer than it should have, filled with a tension so thick it felt almost physical. Lily shifted her weight slightly, as if considering whether to turn back or keep walking, but the boy's small hand in hers anchored her in place. Adam noticed the subtle movement, the instinctive way she positioned herself between him and the child without making it obvious. Your taxi?" Lily asked quietly, nodding toward the curb as if that were the only reason he could possibly still be standing there. Adam blinked, forcing himself to breathe. "Yes," he said, though the word felt meaningless now. "I was waiting." The boy tilted his head, studying Adam with growing interest. "You look like me," he said matter-of-factly, not accusing, not curious, simply stating a fact as children often do. Lily's breath caught for half a second before she smoothed it away. "Noah," she said gently, "we need to hurry or we'll be late." Late for what? Adam wondered, already knowing the answer even before Lily spoke it aloud. "Kindergarten," she added, more to him than to the child. Adam's chest tightened. He glanced toward the small backpack slung over the boy's shoulder, decorated with bright animals, then back to Lily's face. "How old is he?" The question slipped out before he could stop it. Lily's jaw tightened. 3, she said. "Almost 4. Adam nodded slowly, doing the math he had avoided for years. The numbers lined up too perfectly to ignore. He looked back at the boy, at the familiar eyes looking up at him without fear, without expectation. "What's your name?" Adam asked quietly, lowering himself slightly so his voice wouldn't sound so overwhelming. "Noah," the boy replied proudly. "I'm big." A flicker of something passed through Lily's eyes, something close to pain. "We really need to go," she said firmly now. Adam straightened. "Lily," he said, his voice rough, "is he mine?" The question hung between them, fragile and dangerous. For a moment, Lily didn't answer. The sounds of the courtyard crept back in, footsteps, distant traffic, a door closing somewhere above them. She looked down at Noah, brushing his curls back gently, then met Adam's gaze again. "You didn't stay," she said quietly. "You left." "I didn't know," Adam replied immediately. "If I had." "You knew enough," she interrupted. "You said you weren't ready. That you didn't want your life complicated." Adam flinched, the word striking with cruel accuracy. Noah tugged on her hand. "Mom, are we going?" "Yes," she said softly, forcing a smile for him. "We are." She turned to leave, pulling Noah gently along. Adam watched them take a few steps, panic rising sharply in his chest. "Lily, please," he said. "Just talk to me." She stopped but didn't turn around. "Talking won't change what's already happened," she said. "And he doesn't need confusion." Adam stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I don't want to confuse him. I want to know him." Lily finally faced him again. Her expression was guarded, tired, but there was something else beneath it, something conflicted and unresolved. "He has a life," she said. "A routine. He's happy." "I see that," Adam replied. "And I won't disrupt it. But you don't get to decide alone whether I exist to him." Her eyes flashed. "I did decide alone. For 3 years." The words landed like a final verdict. From the far end of the courtyard, the sound of a car pulling up broke the moment. Adam's phone buzzed in his pocket, the taxi notification he had been waiting for. Lily glanced toward the street, then back at him. "This isn't the place," she said quietly. "And not today." She hesitated, then reached into her bag, pulling out a small notepad. She tore off a piece of paper, scribbled something quickly, and handed it to him. 1 hour, she said. "Tonight. After he's asleep." Adam took the paper, his fingers trembling slightly. "Thank you," he said, though the words felt inadequate. Lily nodded once, then turned away, leading Noah toward the gate. The boy looked back over his shoulder one last time, raising his hand in a small, uncertain wave. Adam lifted his hand in return, standing alone in the courtyard as they disappeared from view, knowing with painful clarity that the life he thought he controlled had just slipped beyond his grasp. Adam spent the rest of the morning moving through his day as if behind glass. Meetings happened around him, voices spoke, decisions were made, but none of it reached him in any meaningful way. The small piece of paper Lily had given him lay folded in his pocket, heavy enough to feel through the fabric of his coat, a quiet reminder that everything he thought he understood about his life had shifted. He left work earlier than planned, ignoring the questioning looks and unfinished conversations. For the first time in years, no deadline felt more urgent than the hour written in Lily's careful handwriting. He replayed the scene in the courtyard over and over again, every detail burned into his mind. The way Noah had looked at him without fear. The way Lily had instinctively protected her son without raising her voice. The way the truth had hovered between them, undeniable and terrifying. When he arrived at the address Lily had given him, the sky was already darkening. The building was modest, nothing like the places Adam was used to, but there was something grounding about it. Lights glowed warmly behind several windows, and the faint sound of a television drifted through the air. This was not a temporary stop in someone's life. This was a home. Adam stood outside for a full minute before ringing the bell. Lily opened the door quietly, as if afraid to wake someone. She looked exhausted now that she wasn't holding herself together in public, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders, her blue eyes shadowed with worry and fatigue. "He's asleep," she said before Adam could speak. "We can talk in the kitchen." The apartment was small but carefully kept, filled with signs of a child's presence. A toy truck sat near the couch, books were stacked unevenly on a low shelf, and a tiny pair of sneakers rested by the door. Adam noticed everything, each detail tightening his chest further. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table. For a moment, neither spoke. The quiet felt different here, heavier and more intimate than the silence in the courtyard. "How long did you know?" Adam asked finally, his voice low. Lily didn't hesitate. "Right away." "And you never thought about telling me again?" His question wasn't accusatory, only desperate. "I thought about it every day," she replied. "Especially in the beginning. But every time I imagined calling you, I remembered the way you said you didn't want your life interrupted." Adam closed his eyes briefly. "I was wrong." She studied him carefully. "Being wrong doesn't undo absence." "I know," he said. "But it doesn't mean I want to stay absent now." Lily folded her hands together, steadying herself. "Noah doesn't know you. To him, you're a stranger. A resemblance doesn't make you his father." Adam nodded slowly. "Then let me earn that, even if it takes years." Her expression tightened. "You don't get to try for a few weeks and disappear when it gets uncomfortable." "I won't," he said immediately. "I can't." She leaned back in her chair, exhaling. "You don't understand what it's like to raise a child alone, Adam. To be everything, every day. I won't let him get attached to someone who might leave." The sound of a soft thump came from the other room, followed by a sleepy murmur. Lily stiffened instinctively. Adam stood without thinking. "I'll go." She hesitated, then nodded. This was enough for today. As he moved toward the door, a small voice drifted down the hallway. "Mom?" Lily turned instantly, her face softening. "I'm here, sweetheart." Noah appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes, his curls messy with sleep. He looked at Adam, confusion flickering across his face. "You're still here," he said. Adam crouched slightly, careful not to move too quickly. "I was just leaving." Noah studied him for a moment, then nodded as if that explanation made sense. "Okay." Lily guided him gently back toward the bedroom, whispering reassurances. Adam watched them disappear, his chest aching with a mix of longing and restraint. At the door, Lily paused. "If you want to be part of his life," she said quietly, "you'll have to do it slowly. On his terms." Adam met her gaze. "I'll do it right." She nodded once, not committing to belief, but not shutting the door either. Adam stepped back into the night, the cool air sharp against his skin. He didn't feel victorious or hopeful in any easy way. What he felt was something far heavier and far more real. For the first time, he understood that becoming a father wasn't about claiming a place in a child's life. It was about proving, again and again, that you deserved to stay. The days that followed were defined by restraint and intention. Adam did not rush back into Lily's life, no matter how strong the pull felt. He understood, painfully clearly, that one wrong step could undo the fragile opening she had allowed. Instead, he waited for her signal, keeping his distance while rearranging his life around the possibility that she might eventually say yes. That yes came quietly. Lily sent a short message 2 days later, direct and carefully worded. They would meet at a small park near the kindergarten, a neutral place where Noah felt safe. Adam read the message 3 times before responding, choosing his words with care. He agreed, adding nothing more than a simple acknowledgement. He did not want to pressure her with gratitude or urgency. The park was nearly empty when he arrived. The air was crisp, the ground scattered with early leaves, and the swings creaked softly in the breeze. Adam stood near the entrance for a moment, grounding himself, reminding himself that this was not about proving anything. It was about showing up and then letting go of expectations. Noah spotted him first. The boy paused mid-step, his small backpack bouncing lightly against his shoulders, and stared at Adam with open curiosity. Lily slowed beside him, her posture alert but not defensive. "You remember him," she said gently to Noah. Noah nodded. "He looks like me." Adam smiled faintly, resisting the instinct to kneel or reach out. "Hi, Noah." The boy considered him for a second, then waved. "Hi." That was all. No fear. No excitement. Just acceptance, simple and unguarded, which somehow felt heavier than either extreme. They walked together toward the benches. Lily sat down, keeping Noah close but not shielding him. Adam took the seat at the far end of the bench, leaving space between them that spoke of respect rather than distance. Noah ran toward the slide without hesitation. Adam watched him climb with determined concentration, his tongue caught slightly between his teeth. The resemblance struck him again, sharp and undeniable, and this time it didn't feel like shock. It felt like responsibility. "He's observant," Adam said quietly. "He always has been," Lily replied. "He notices everything." Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, but careful. "I won't correct you," Lily said after a moment. "I won't introduce you as anything. That has to come from him, if it ever does." "I understand," Adam said. "I won't push." Noah slid down the slide, laughing softly, then ran back toward them, stopping directly in front of Adam. "Are you coming too?" he asked, pointing toward the swings. Adam looked at Lily first. She nodded once. He stood and followed Noah, pushing the swing gently, keeping his movements slow and predictable. Noah laughed again, louder this time, his feet kicking the air, his trust offered without conditions. Lily watched from the bench, her chest tight with emotions she refused to name. She had imagined this moment in countless ways, none of them this quiet, this ordinary, this disarming. Afterward, Noah grew tired quickly, curling up beside Lily with a juice box. Adam stayed where he was, not intruding, content to simply remain within sight. "You didn't bring gifts," Lily observed quietly. Adam shook his head. "I didn't want to confuse him." She studied him for a long moment. That was the right choice. As they prepared to leave, Noah turned to Adam again. "Will you come back?" Adam crouched slightly to meet his eyes. "If your mom says it's okay." Noah nodded solemnly, as if this answer fit perfectly into his understanding of the world. Lily hesitated, then spoke. "We can do this again." Slowly. Adam felt something loosen in his chest, something that had been held too tightly for too long. "I'll follow your lead." That evening, alone in his apartment, Adam sat without turning on the lights, replaying the day in his mind. There had been no dramatic declarations, no clear victory, but he felt changed in a way success had never managed to achieve. For the first time, he wasn't chasing control. He was learning patience, and with it, the shape of a future that would only exist if he earned it one quiet moment at a time. The careful routine they began to build did not feel fragile anymore, but it was still deliberate, shaped by intention rather than impulse. Adam became a familiar presence in Noah's world without announcing himself as anything more than a man who showed up. He met them at the park, sometimes walked with them to kindergarten, and occasionally stayed long enough to sit on the floor while Noah lined up toy cars with meticulous focus. Each visit followed the same unspoken rules. Adam never arrived uninvited, never stayed longer than Lily allowed, and never tried to claim a place that hadn't been offered. Noah adjusted faster than Adam expected. At first, the boy treated him like any other adult who drifted in and out of his day, asking simple questions and offering brief, matter-of-fact answers in return. Then, slowly, curiosity deepened into expectation. Noah began to look for Adam's car when they arrived at the park, to ask if he was coming before Lily could answer, to wave excitedly when he spotted him from across the playground. The trust was quiet and instinctive, the kind that grows when consistency replaces uncertainty. Lily noticed everything. She watched how Adam listened more than he spoke, how he mirrored Noah's energy instead of overwhelming it, how he accepted correction without irritation when Noah told him he was pushing the swing too fast or holding the crayons the wrong way. She had braced herself for impatience, for subtle frustration, for the kind of authority Adam once carried so easily. Instead, she saw humility, and it unsettled her more than resistance ever could have. One afternoon, Noah fell and scraped his knee on the pavement. The injury was minor, but the shock of it sent him into sudden tears. Lily moved toward him immediately, but Adam reached him first, kneeling carefully, his movements slow and reassuring. "It hurts," Noah sobbed. "I know," Adam said gently, not touching him until Noah nodded permission. "We'll fix it." He cleaned the scrape with steady hands, talking softly the entire time, explaining each step as if it mattered. Noah watched him closely, tears fading into concentration, and when it was over, he leaned forward without hesitation and rested his head briefly against Adam's shoulder. Lily froze. The moment was small, fleeting, but it shifted something deep inside her. She turned away under the pretense of searching for a tissue, unwilling to examine the ache forming in her chest. That evening, after Noah had gone to bed, Lily finally addressed what she had been carrying. "He's getting attached," she said quietly, standing near the kitchen counter. Adam nodded. "I know. And if you disappear," she continued, her voice controlled but tight, "he won't understand why." Adam didn't defend himself. He didn't promise things he couldn't guarantee. He simply said, "I won't." Lily studied him, searching for certainty in a world that had taught her not to trust it. "You don't know what you're giving up," she said. "I do," Adam replied. "And I'm choosing it." The weight of that choice followed him back to his own life. Meetings grew strained. Adam missed calls he would once have taken without hesitation. He declined travel he had previously accepted as routine. His colleagues noticed the change, the shift in priorities that no longer aligned neatly with the demands of leadership. Questions were asked. Concerns were raised. Subtle warnings were delivered in polite language. Adam listened. For the first time, the idea of losing ground did not terrify him. What frightened him was the thought of becoming someone Noah would look for and no longer find. The turning point came when Noah's kindergarten announced a small performance for parents. Lily mentioned it casually, not looking at Adam as she spoke. "It's nothing important," she said. "Just a few songs." Adam knew better. "Can I come?" he asked quietly. Lily hesitated. The word parents echoed in the space between them, heavy and dangerous. Then she nodded once. "Yes." The performance was chaotic and imperfect, filled with missed lyrics and nervous laughter. Adam sat in the back row, careful not to draw attention, his hands clenched together as he watched Noah scan the room. When their eyes met, Noah's face lit up with unmistakable relief. Afterward, Noah ran straight to him, wrapping his arms around Adam's legs without warning. Adam froze for a split second, then bent down and hugged him back, careful, steady, fully present. Lily watched from a distance, her heart pounding painfully. That night, alone in her apartment, she stared at the ceiling long after sleep should have come. She had built her life around the certainty that she could handle everything alone. Allowing Adam this close meant risking that certainty, risking the carefully constructed walls that had kept them safe. But as she listened to Noah breathing softly in the next room, she understood something she had been resisting. Adam was no longer asking for a place in their lives. He was already standing in it, and the only question left was whether she was brave enough to accept what that meant. The change became impossible to ignore once it reached beyond the boundaries of the park and the kindergarten. Adam's life, once ruled by rigid schedules and carefully guarded priorities, began to bend around Noah in ways that affected everything else. He stopped staying late at the office, stopped answering emails during dinner hours, and began leaving meetings early without explanations he would have once considered mandatory. At first, no one said anything. Then the look started. Then the questions. Adam noticed them, but they no longer carried the same weight. For years, his sense of worth had been measured by momentum, by expansion, by the constant forward push that left no room for pause. Now, pauses were everywhere, built into his days by a small boy who needed help with shoes, who insisted on being listened to, who wanted stories repeated exactly the same way every night. Adam found that these interruptions did not weaken him. They grounded him. Noah, meanwhile, began to test the edges of this new stability. He grew bolder, more demanding, more openly emotional. Some mornings he clung to Lily at the kindergarten door, refusing to let go, his voice breaking with sudden fear that had no clear source. Other days he ran ahead confidently, waving goodbye without a backward glance. Adam learned not to take either reaction personally. He stayed consistent, present whether Noah reached for him or didn't. Lily watched the transformation with cautious disbelief. She had expected Adam to tire, to grow frustrated when progress wasn't linear, when affection wasn't guaranteed. Instead, she saw him absorb disappointment quietly, never withdrawing, never punishing Noah for uncertainty. That steadiness chipped away at the defenses she had spent years building. The first real conflict came unexpectedly. Adam missed a scheduled visit. He called as soon as he realized, his voice tight with frustration and apology, explaining that a meeting had run long, that he had misjudged the time. Lily listened in silence, her grip tightening around the phone as Noah sat beside her on the couch, shoes already on, waiting. "It's okay," she said finally. "We'll see you another time." But it wasn't okay. Noah didn't cry. He didn't ask questions. He simply went to his room and closed the door, a quiet withdrawal that unsettled Adam far more than tears would have. When Adam arrived later that evening, unannounced, Lily met him at the door with a look that stopped him cold. "He thinks he did something wrong," she said quietly. Adam's chest tightened painfully. He nodded once and walked past her without argument. He knocked softly on Noah's door and waited. "Can I come in?" he asked. There was a pause, then a small voice answered, "Okay." Noah sat on the bed, his back against the wall, his toy cars lined up carefully in front of him. He didn't look up. "I was late," Adam said gently, sitting on the floor instead of the bed. "And that's my fault." Noah shrugged slightly. "You didn't come." "You're right," Adam said. "And I should have." Noah finally looked at him, his blue eyes serious and searching. "Are you going away?" The question landed with devastating clarity. Adam didn't rush his answer. "No," he said. "Sometimes adults make mistakes. But leaving you isn't one of them." Noah studied his face for a long moment, then reached forward and pushed one of the toy cars toward him. It was a small gesture, but it felt like forgiveness. That night, after Noah was asleep, Lily confronted Adam. "You can't disappear," she said, her voice low but firm. "Even once. Not without explaining. Not without coming back." "I know," Adam replied. "I won't let it happen again." She searched his face, then nodded slowly. "Then we move forward." The fallout at work arrived soon after. Adam was called into a meeting with senior leadership, the tone polite but unmistakably critical. His availability was questioned. His focus was scrutinized. The implication was clear. His life no longer fit the version of success they expected him to maintain. For the first time, Adam didn't argue. "I won't compromise this," he said calmly. "If that's a problem, then we need to talk about my role." The silence that followed was heavy. When he told Lily later that evening, she felt a surge of guilt she hadn't expected. "You shouldn't have to lose everything," she said quietly. "I'm not losing it," Adam replied. "I'm choosing something else." She looked at him then, really looked, and understood that this wasn't a phase or a performance. It was a shift in identity. That night, Lily lay awake listening to Noah breathe in the next room, her thoughts tangled and restless. Letting Adam this close meant accepting that her carefully controlled world would never be the same again. It meant shared risk, shared responsibility, shared heartbreak if things fell apart. But it also meant something else, something she hadn't allowed herself to name until now. It meant she was no longer carrying everything alone. And as frightening as that realization was, it was beginning to feel like relief. The tension that had been building for weeks finally surfaced in ways none of them could ignore. Adam's professional world, once distant background noise, began pressing in more aggressively, demanding clarity and sacrifice. Meetings turned colder, conversations more strategic, as if the people around him were testing how serious this change really was. Adam felt it every time he declined a trip, every time he left early, every time he chose a small, ordinary moment with Noah over another display of commitment to the company. At home, the shift was just as real, though quieter. Noah had begun calling Adam's name without thinking, asking for him when he woke from naps, looking toward the door when footsteps sounded in the hallway. The boy's trust had settled into something steady and unassuming, which made it infinitely more fragile. Adam felt the weight of it constantly, aware that one careless decision could undo months of patience. Lily sensed the strain before Adam spoke about it. She saw it in the way his jaw tightened when his phone rang, in the way he paused before answering messages, in the way his attention flickered briefly back toward the life he was trying to step away from. "They're not going to let this go," she said one evening after Noah had fallen asleep. "Are they?" Adam leaned back in his chair, exhaustion etched into his features. "No," he admitted. "They want a clear answer." "And what does that mean?" Lily asked, though she already suspected. "It means choosing," Adam said quietly. The word hung between them, heavy with history. Lily had lived too long believing she would always be the one left behind to pretend it didn't scare her. Noah's kindergarten called the next day. There had been an incident on the playground, nothing serious, but Noah had refused to calm down until Lily arrived. When she asked what had upset him, his answer was painfully simple. "I thought Adam wouldn't come back," he said, his voice small and frightened. Lily's chest tightened. She hugged him tightly, murmuring reassurances she hoped were true. That evening, she told Adam everything. Adam didn't interrupt. He didn't justify. He simply listened, his face going pale. "I won't let him feel that way again," he said. 2 days later, the board meeting took place. Adam walked into the room already knowing the outcome. The discussion was framed as concern, as guidance, as opportunity, but the message was unmistakable. His priorities no longer aligned with the image they needed him to represent. He could remain in a reduced role, distant and controlled, or step aside with dignity. Adam thought of Noah waiting at the window. Of Lily standing between fear and hope. Of the courtyard where his life had split open. "I'll step down," he said calmly. Effective immediately. The silence that followed was stunned, almost disbelieving. News traveled fast. By evening, messages filled his phone, some supportive, some bewildered, some thinly disguised warnings. Adam turned the phone off and drove straight to Lily's apartment. She opened the door and knew immediately. "You did it," she said softly. "I chose," Adam replied. Lily's hands trembled slightly. "You didn't have to give up everything." "I didn't," he said. "I kept what mattered." That night, Noah crawled into Adam's lap with a book and fell asleep halfway through the story, his small hand gripping Adam's shirt as if anchoring himself. Adam didn't move, not even when his arm went numb, afraid that any shift might break the moment. Lily watched from the doorway, tears blurring her vision. She had spent years preparing herself to survive disappointment. She had never prepared herself to witness someone choose them so completely. Later, when the apartment was quiet again, Lily spoke the words she had been holding back for months. "I'm still afraid," she said. "But I believe you now." Adam met her gaze, his voice steady but gentle. "That's all I need." Outside, the city continued as it always had, indifferent to the quiet decisions being made behind closed doors. Inside that small apartment, however, something irreversible had taken place. Adam had stopped being a visitor in Noah's life. He had become someone who stayed. The change did not announce itself with celebration or certainty. It arrived quietly, settling into their days until it felt as though it had always been there. Without the constant pull of a life that demanded more than it gave back, Adam's time expanded in unfamiliar ways. Mornings were no longer rushed exits and unanswered messages. They were slow breakfasts, spilled juice, and Noah insisting on choosing his own socks even when they didn't match. Noah adjusted first, as children often do when something finally feels safe. He stopped watching the door with guarded anticipation and began assuming Adam's presence as a given. He asked questions freely now, about everything from why the sky changed color at night to whether Adam had been little once too. Adam answered each one carefully, aware that every word mattered more than he had ever understood before. Lily observed this transformation with a mixture of awe and restraint. She did not rush herself. Trust, she had learned, was not built on grand gestures but on repetition. Adam earned it slowly, in the way he showed up without reminders, in how he stayed calm when Noah tested limits, in how he deferred to Lily without resentment or defensiveness. There were disagreements, moments of fatigue, evenings when the weight of shared responsibility pressed down on all of them, but none of it felt like abandonment. The world beyond their small orbit began to fade. The whispers about Adam's resignation quieted. His name slipped from headlines and conversations moved on to newer stories. He found work that fit around life instead of consuming it, consulting quietly, choosing projects that allowed him to come home before dinner. The loss of status stung occasionally, but it never outweighed the sound of Noah's laughter echoing down the hallway or the comfort of sitting beside Lily in shared silence at the end of the day. One evening, as winter gave way to early spring, they walked together through the same courtyard where everything had begun. Noah ran ahead, stopping to examine something new every few steps, unconcerned with where he was going as long as they followed. Adam and Lily walked side by side, their shoulders nearly touching. "You stayed," Lily said quietly, not as a question but as an acknowledgement. Adam nodded. "I will." They reached the gate, and Noah turned back toward them, his face bright and unguarded. "Come on," he called. "You're slow." Adam laughed, a sound that once would have felt unfamiliar in his own chest. He reached out instinctively, taking Noah's hand, and felt Lily's fingers brush his arm as she fell into step beside them. Later that night, after Noah was asleep, Lily stood in the doorway of his room, watching him breathe, his curls spread messily across the pillow. Adam joined her, neither of them speaking for a long moment. "I spent so long believing I had to do everything alone," Lily said softly. "I didn't realize how heavy that was until I wasn't carrying it by myself anymore." Adam didn't respond immediately. When he did, his voice was gentle. "I spent years thinking strength meant control. I was wrong." She turned toward him then, meeting his eyes without fear for the first time in a long while. There was no dramatic reconciliation, no promises spoken aloud. What passed between them was quieter and far more real, an understanding shaped by loss, patience, and choice. The next morning, Noah burst into the kitchen holding a crumpled piece of paper, announcing proudly that Adam had to sign it because it was for parents. Adam took the pen without hesitation, his hand steady, his name filling the space with a weight that felt earned. They left the apartment together, Noah between them, their pace unhurried. The city moved around them, unaware of the life that had been pieced back together not by chance, but by the decision to remain when leaving would have been easier. Sometimes a story doesn't end with triumph or applause. Sometimes it ends with a child holding your hand, a past finally laid to rest, and the quiet certainty that staying is the bravest choice of all.